Hey everybody, this is Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner,
And this is short-haired Victoria, and no, I'm not wearing a wig.
and you're watching episode 81 of the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. What are we doing today, Victoria?
I can't remember. We recorded this a long time ago.
Yeah, I figured. We are doing our second book review now. The first one we did was for Katie and Will's book, Adventures in Oddity, which just came out on audiobook. It is available on Bandcamp, and I'll put a link down in the description.
Go listen to it.
But we're doing our second book review for this podcast now as we go into the first Imagination Station series book, Voyage with the Vikings. In addition, we are also doing our predictions for what, Victoria?
For album 60.
No.
Album 61.
No.
Album 59.
No. For the OAC 2016
For the
season.
OAC 2016 season.
Yes. Because everything else you said has already come out, except for album 61, which we don't even know the titles all for yet.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so we'll turn you guys over to that right now, starting with the book review. So have fun. And now we are here doing our second episode of book reviews, where we are talking about the first book in the Imagination Station series, which is called Voyage with the Vikings, written by Marianne Herring and Paul McCusker. It was recently released as an audiobook, not an audio drama, but an audio book, on the OAC, read by Bob Hoose, who is, of course, sound designer, actor, and writer, and many other things on the team. So he narrates the audiobook, and we go through it. I'm really curious about why they decided to make an audiobook, because AIOO is already the most popular audio drama in the world, in a world full of bland audiobooks. So I'm really curious what compelled them to make it like that, with a single narrator and music, but no sound effects.
Smaller
No
budget.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's just that they didn't have the time and budget to justify dramatizing it, but they still wanted to do something with it.
I mean, like with Darian's Rise, it was like a big thing and everyone was really hyped. I feel like this would make everyone underhyped and no one would enjoy it.
Yeah.
I feel like Darian's Rise made the money back, and we can guarantee that. I don't think this would make them money back. If you open it, you get to see stunning reviews from 8 and 9-year-olds, an 8 and 9-year-old, and a third grade public school teacher. And they all say they loved it, so you know these are very good authorities, and the book must be good.
So, what happens in this book, Victoria?
I don't know. You tell me, Devin.
Yeah, apparently Victoria wasn't paying a whole lot of attention when she went through it, because she barely remembers what happened. All right.
I don't want to be mean, but it was just so boring.
Let me lay out the fascinating plot for you guys, because it's something. Okay, so this takes place in an AU where things can come out of the things from the Imagination Station can come out of the station, except they can't come out of the station. They cannot leave. They can come out of the adventure, but they can't leave the physical space of the invention. For example, Whit has some mysterious golden ring, the square, and it's lined with pearls, that's on his finger, but it's only visible when his hand is inside the Imagination Station. You can see it, and then when he takes his hand out of the door, it just vanishes.
Do you think that's like if you do anything in the Imagination Station, it only stays there now? Like, I would get a marker and I would write on someone's face if they fell asleep in the station, and then they would like come out and it would be gone. And every time they went in, they'd have like this mustache drawn on their face, and they go to like the nativity and stuff, and everyone sees it.
Yeah, so there's things can come into the station now and things can go out of it, and it's really weird. The Imagination Station may be sentient now. It may also be magic. Also, it may be actual literal time travel in these series.
Also, it kind of turned into the TARDIS because it apparently is sentient and it's picky about its owners.
Yeah, so here's the thing. So, a mysterious note written on ancient yellow parchment appeared in the station one day, and Whit has no idea where it comes from. And it says some vague sentence that sounds like it came from a bad fantasy fanfic written by a 13-year-old.
So at this point, if I was Whit, I would think, oh no, what's Malachi up to again with my Imagination Station? Or I would think, what kid left their little fan fiction inside my invention? They're not allowed coming back and littering again.
So all the note says is, to save Albert, I need a Viking sunstone before the new moon, or Lord Darkthorn will lock him inside the tower. Which already sounds pretty ridiculous. But here's the weird thing. Whit is now incapable of using the imagination station. You can't get it to turn on. Is it some kind of technical malfunction? No, it turns out he's not the chosen one, because when our favorite kid characters, cousins Beth and Patrick,
I remember them. They're my favorite, along with Dylan and his sister.
Our favorite precocious 10-year-olds. When they come into the imagination station and they put their hands on the dashboard, it comes to life. But when Whit touches it, then it goes silent. So only they are the chosen ones who can use the magical sword and the stone of the imagination station. So Whit's like, I need, this note is apparently real, and I understand it, and I need to find a Viking sunstone, but I don't know what that is. So I made a Viking adventure, and I'm going to send you guys, possibly literally back in time, to find out what a Viking sunstone is and bring it back to me. It'll all make sense in time. Or you could just
Google it. There's that too. That's the thing.
So they go back.
Also, eBay sunstone is so much faster.
So Beth and Patrick get into costumes, and Whit gives Patrick a silver grizzly bear for cape, and he gives a bag of chess pieces to Beth, and he sends it back in time, and he's like, the imagination station will turn invisible once you leave it, but when you have the thing that you need and your adventure's done, return to where it was, and the red button will just appear floating in the air, and then you'll hit it. Because that's how the imagination station works.
So, if the imagination station didn't rip off Doctor Who enough, now we got this chameleon circuit crap going on.
So they go back and they meet Eric the Red and Leif Erikson and learn about, Leif is a Christian, but Eric the Red isn't. He's angry about it, and he wants them to be slaves, and there's all this stuff, and they think they find the Sunstone, and so Beth whoops Eric the Red's butt at chess, and she takes his family heirloom sword, and then they're like, whoops, this isn't the Sunstone. Guess we should have asked someone if this was the Sunstone before we took the sword. And then they find the Sunstone, but it's way too big, and then they find out that there's another thing also called a Sunstone, and they're like, yes, this is it, and they're back on the ship, and then once they have it, then the red button magically appears on a barrel, and they hit it, and then they come...
Imagine that for 128 pages, just going on and on and on.
So then they get back, and they, show it to Whit. They're like, here, we brought this out of the imagination station. I'm physically holding a thinly cut sapphire in my hand that I pulled out of the imagination station. This would be a great way to get rich, just saying. And then, out of thin air, another note appears on the dashboard of the machine, and this one says, more trouble for Albert. Lord Darkthorn is angry. The Roman monk's silver cup is missing. We need it before the new moon. May God be with you.
Or else the werewolves are gonna show up and battle the vampire unicorn.
And so Whit's like, the Roman monk's silver cup is missing. Guess I better send you guys back to Rome so you can steal more artifacts.
But we're hungry. And he's like, no food for you until you go, dogs. And then he sends them off.
So he's like, I guess I better send you back into history tomorrow. And so that is my summary of what happens in the book. Before we go on, just so I can take my finger out of the book, I'll read what the official guide has to say about it.
So ridiculous.
So about the overall series, it says, push the red button. In the mid-2000s, authors Marianne Herring and Paul McCusker were reflecting on the lack of books in the youth reader category. Marianne and Paul both had children in kindergarten at the time, so it wasn't difficult to get into the mindset of an early elementary reader or to see the need for wholesome reading. The obvious decision was to establish a series of books around one of John Avery Whittaker's most popular inventions, the Inspiration Station.
That's what I was gonna say.
No, it's
but
the...
unfortunately, the Inspiration Station asks for too much money whenever it's on camera, so that's why we don't see it very often.
It's true.
Kind of like Mickey Mouse.
The Imagination Station books are designed to be easy readers for kids 7 to 10 years old. Each one features the retelling of a true story from history, along with plenty of action and adventure. Some might compare the style of the Imagination Station books to the Magic Tree House book series by Mary Pope Osborne.
Except for those are good!
But don't forget that the Imagination Station episode, Album 5, first debuted in 1989, and the first Magic Treehouse book wasn't published until 1992. I'd like to point out no one's saying that the Imagination Station as an invention is similar to the to the Magic Treehouse books. We're saying that this book series is literally a carbon copy of the Magic Treehouse books to the point where they're massively changing the canon of Adventures in Odyssey to match with the story structure of the Magic Treehouse books, but I'm going to get to that in a minute.
What was the kid's name? Oliver? Was that the one who was the cat? And then
Teddy was the dog.
Teddy was like my favorite character. I loved Teddy.
Originally, we planned to adapt existing Imagination Station audio episodes for the books. However, we only got as far as adapting Telemachus, album 32, for Attack at the Arena, which is book 2. So they did book 2, the next book after this one, is the story of Telemachus. It's called Attack at the Arena.
That's pretty cool.
When we realized the episodes were really too long to transform into our books. Also, with the episodes, there was no easy way of knowing which parts were historically accurate and which parts were fiction. In the end, starting from scratch was easier. So, Voyage with the Vikings came out in 2010 originally, and there's a couple questions with Paul and Marianne, or just with Marianne,
was so much better than this book.
We need to review that.
It's also shorter. I love Telemachus.
We could do a weird book review / versus crossover where we do Telemachus and Attack at the Arena.
No, I don't want to go through another one of these books.
Behind the scenes, well, we're going to. Except you'll have to read them this time because this is the only audiobook. Behind the scenes. I bet I would
pick up things better if I read them.
Behind the scenes, the names of the two cousins come from the middle names of author Paul McCusker's children, Patrick and Beth. And then there's a question and answers with Marianne Herring. Did Eric the Red really become a Christian like he did in Voyage with the Vikings? And Marianne, historical sources are unclear, and there are discrepancies in the Old Norse texts. The Norse discovery of America explains two different accounts of Eric's spiritual life. In short, some say that he became a Christian and others disagree. Question, was chess really invented yet in AD 1000? Marianne, the Norse sagas mention games similar to chess in the Middle Ages, so Eric and Leif most likely played them. In fact, Leif played a game like chess against King Olaf I of Norway, but the ancient rules of chess were probably a little different from those in modern times. And then
so basically that's saying that Beth would have lost if it was accurate.
Yes. He'd be like, I play my queen in defense position, and now all of your pieces are dead.
Trap card? And he's like, you lose. All your life points are mine.
Yeah.
She's like,
I'm sending
my
Patrick
rook from the graveyard, and he's like, no.
Sending Patrick and Beth to the Shadow Realm. Okay, so
that's where Lord Thorn Darkness is in the Shadow Realm with our Albert or whatever his name.
He's gonna
You think it's cousin Albert, Devin? He finally learned how to write, and he's sending the messages.
What's gonna happen is Lord Darkthorn's gonna show up, but they're not gonna know who he is because he's using a fake name, which is actually Mord Sarkthorn. So they won't.
I thought you were saying he's actually Blackbeard.
Well, I was trying to make a joke about Malik Blishtar. But
oh, okay. But
anyways,
can you imagine if it was actually Blackbeard and then he showed up and Whit saw him and then he's just like, but you didn't expect this, Whit, and then Whit just shakes his head and he's just like, I was like, I expect better from you.
Well, when they talked about trapped in the Tower of Lord Darkthorn, it already sounds enough like the whole the Tower of Dr. Mephisto from A Day in the Life.
It's like they're making a parody of it, and they want us to notice so they can stop making the books.
Yeah.
We noticed, you can stop making the books.
So, I'm pretty sure at some point it's been said, there was some connection between, the Magic Treehouse novels and the Imagination Station books. They're denying it here,
really?
But
I don't see it. What's the connection?
Okay, so for those who didn't read the Magic Treehouse books, I was a huge fan when I was young.
We have all the books,
had them all.
Are
they
on
your shelf there
mysteries.
still?
We have the majority.
Do you have any that you could show here?
Not in the room right now, but they're in your room downstairs.
Okay. So yeah, we had all of them up to a point, as well as many of the nonfiction companion guides. I learned so much about history from them. So for those who don't know the basic plot and structure of the stories, let me lay it out, and we can see how much they're not similar to this. So the stories are about two siblings named Jack and Annie. Annie is the older, smart, and responsible one, and Jack is the younger, more impulsive one. Because what else? That's not like a cliche trope for siblings or for a male and female character protagonist. And they happen to find this treehouse that is filled with books. And they discover that when you open a book and you wish to experience the place in the book, then the treehouse would, there'd be like, whoa, and it'd be like shaking, whizzing, and they'd be like, whoa, and then they would end up in history somewhere. And then there's some kind of fetch quest for an artifact from that point in history, and they have to get the
sometimes they just accidentally end up there, and they just fetch something in general.
Yeah, but usually
they just happen to.
Yeah, either way, there's something specific that they need to get. Return to the treehouse, and then the treehouse will take them home again, and then it'll be silent. Absolutely silent. And the books and the treehouse belong to Morgan Le Fay, sister of King Arthur. So in the first 4 books, because the books are structured such that every set of 4 books is an arc. So in the first 4 books, the kids find 4 artifacts that help them free Morgan, and then they kind of like learn the lore of what's going on and that it's her stuff. And then every set
and by Arthur, we're talking about King Arthur, so there's like medieval stuff going on in the lore.
So from that point on, every set of 4 books is an arc where in every book the kids will like get a note from Morgan, and it's like, go collect this magical artifact towards some magical end. And then they get an artifact, and then at the end of each set of 4 books, then the artifacts will be used to do usually set someone free from some kind of magic spell. So there were 28 books in the original series, so there were 7 arcs, each with 4 books.
I thought there were like 100, because I guess I had no sense of conservation as a kid. I didn't know what numbers were or whatever.
After the original 28 books of the main series, then it became the Magic Treehouse Merlin missions, where instead of Morgan, it was Merlin the wizard from the King Arthur stories who would send them out on missions to find stuff.
That's because he like kidnapped and poisoned Morgan.
Anyways, so then from that point on, all of the books, with one exception, included at least some element of magic at some point during that adventure that they'd have to use to help them get through things. Usually history. It was always history in the original series, almost always history in the Merlin missions. There were a couple of fantasy, Camelot-involved ones in the Merlin missions. But these stories always followed a very strict formula about going to the treehouse, finding a note, we have to get this artifact, we go back in history, and then we find this one magical MacGuffin, we bring it to the treehouse, and then there's a turbulent ride, whoa, and then we end up back home, and now we have this thing, and then next time there would be another note telling them to go after another thing. So,
even though it was very like by the book and kind of cliche, there was an overarching storyline which was actually really compelling, and you wanted to know what was going to happen. So correct me if I'm wrong.
Sorry, I just want to point out then, we need to make sure that we're all aware that there's absolutely no similarity between this and Voyage with the Vikings, in which 2 siblings, where you have like the girl who is the smart and calm and collected
cousins,
ones.
I think.
Yeah, and the boy who's the impulsive, reckless one, who use some kind of magical thing, and there's like a mysterious older person, and they're like, here's a note, you need to go back in time using this thing to a period in history and find the magical MacGuffin. You'll go through, you'll get it, you'll come back, and then bring it back, and then another note will appear telling you to go and find another thing from history. Absolutely no similarity whatsoever.
So, and for those of you who are like, those aren't the same, what about this whole Albert thing and like the mystery? Well, in the original arc, we had a mouse who was in the cabin or in the treehouse, and it followed them around. They found out after the first arc, the mouse was actually Morgan, and she was turned into a mouse by Merlin because he's a jerk, and they have a bunch of disputes throughout the whole series. Right after that arc, we get this little puppy, and he's adorable. His name's Teddy. After that arc, we find out that he used to be a human, and he was actually Morgan's apprentice, and since Merlin's a jerk, he turned him into an animal too.
I'm glad you have a better memory of this stuff than I do.
And then Teddy's turned back into a animal. Actually, you should have a better memory. You have no excuse. You were older when we went through these books than I was.
Yeah, but you've had them in your room forever. You probably
I don't have them in my room.
Yeah, but you did. For a long
I haven't had
time.
them in my room for like years and years and years.
Yeah, a lot more years since I've looked at them. Anyways.
Grade 7, I reread the first one, and I was like, what? And it's about dinosaurs. I'm like, what's a... And I had like no idea how to read it. And then at the end, like, you know how like they read a pterodactyl in it? And I had no idea how the word pterodactyl was spelt in like grade 7. And then I looked on the cover. I'm like, I specifically remember them as a kid riding a pterodactyl. What they read was oh, that's how you pronounce pterodactyl. And it wasn't until I was done it and I felt so stupid.
So, I was going to say, Wikipedia basically described most of the arcs in the book as trying to turn animals back into the magical people that they were.
I didn't realize how repetitive it was until I just went over it, honestly.
So
but I still enjoyed them. I have good memories of them.
So the books were good, and this feels just a little too similar to it, to the point where, like I said in the description, they changed things about like how the Imagination Station works in a lot of different ways. They made it seem like if you only read the books, you would think that you actually went back in time in the Imagination Station, which is possibly the weirdest thing. Because when Beth describes the machine to Patrick, she's like, it's like a time machine. And at no point do they ever make it clear that it is not a literal time machine in these books. They make it seem like it's a physical thing on the ship in the Vikings, and you have to get back to that place in order to get out of the adventure.
Like, these little poser kids are going to read these books, come into my Odyssey, come into my town, my Hell's Diner, and then they're going to be like, I know everything about this series, bring it on. And then they're just going to be like, what's Hell's Diner? What, you mean this isn't how the Imagination Station works?
Yeah.
And then they're like, where's Hand Up? And they just have no idea what's going on, and yeah.
So, I should point out, then these books are definitely not canon, because they let you, among other things, you can take things out of the adventure from the Imagination Station, and this is not Isaac the Chivalrous.
You can't take the adventure out of them! Hey, it's all uphill from here!
So apparently the Imagination Station is somehow sentient in here. Like we mentioned before, it's some kind of oracle or something. It only gives adventures to the Chosen Ones, TM. So which would make it a seriously difficult attraction to market to kids anymore, if it decided that. Honestly, what I'm hoping actually happened is that Whit got into a fight with Mabel, and now she just won't turn the machine on for him, and that's what's going on.
It's like Tales of Moderation.
Yeah.
Where Eugene is having
You don't deserve to go on an adventure, Whit.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was
until you clean the crumbs from my processor, you're not allowed.
Yeah. It was a really bizarrely convoluted way to get the kids into an adventure about Vikings.
Yeah.
It's also weird that Whit made them dress up IRL for this adventure.
He hasn't done that in years. I was going to comment on that too. The last time he did that
was the Star, I think.
Adventures in Bethany? Was that the last?
Oh, maybe.
Because I think he did that with Lucy.
Which, the fact that he made them do that is just another point where technically it could work with the Imagination Station, but it's just more making it seem like they were trying to suggest that this was a real-time machine and not a virtual reality machine.
Yeah. I don't know, I think the best situation we've had so far, or at least my favorite for why the kids are in the Imagination Station, might have been hide and seek. Like, how it's like, oh, we shouldn't be in here, they'll never find us in here, and then it turns on, and then they almost die, basically. And
well, there's only one person, I don't know what you're saying, they.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't remember, but...
That one guy, but, the only thing about the Imagination Station here, really, that I can see that has any precedent in canon, is the idea that there could be some sort of historical data in the program that Whit doesn't know about, and he's using the program to, like, compile and process the data and figure out the results. Because that's basically that's exactly what Eugene created the search function to do in Darkness Before Dawn. But this is different because clearly Whit knew like specific things that would happen in this adventure because he gave her the chess set and he gave him the cloak and stuff. Like he was setting it all up.
He's like, well, I just have this junk lying around. Might as well give it to you losers. And then he's just like, don't. If they say they don't want it, just throw it at them, basically. Like, I have so much junk lying around Wits End. I really want to get rid of it. Yeah. It's not the last great adventure of the summer anymore. I can't have father, like, secret agents and sons coming in taking out my garbage for me. So Connie's not here. She's late again. So I'm just going to give you guys this stuff. Take the chess set. Hopefully it will come of use. I don't even know.
Yeah, it was
Just
really
some
weird at the
names.
beginning, because they're like, who's Albert? What's Lord Darkthorn's tower? And Wit's like, don't worry
Okay,
about
what
that,
page
kids.
is that?
Wit's like, don't worry, kids, I'll explain later. And I was like, what's going on here? Also, I just realized they gave the silver cloak to Eric the Red, and they gave the chess set to Leif Erikson. So, did they have those when they came out of the station? Because this isn't the one where you go into the rooms. There's at least that excuse when we had hidden gems and Olivia took the cup of water into King Josiah. Like, they should still have the things in the cabin of the imagination station with them, or did they disappear? Because apparently things can appear and disappear now.
Where's the part with the note? I want to read it. What page is that?
Of what? Of the first note?
Yeah, with the Lord Darkthorn.
Well, I already read it, what it said.
Yeah, I know, but I want to...
It's page 14.
Page 14? Okay. I just want to...
Page 24 of the PDF, page 14 of the book.
How can anyone read this with a straight face? To save Albert, I need a Viking sunstone before the new moon, or Lord Darkthorn will lock him inside the
Like, Lord Darkthorn is the worst OC name ever.
Oh my gosh!
So, it's established that Whit has the illustrations in this book are actually quite nice. I really like the art style. I'll throw some of them up on the screen right now, and you can pause and look at some of them. They're quite nice. Right here...
They are nice. I like how they draw Whit.
Right here on the screen right now, this is Whit's ring that is mentioned. And Victoria, for you, it's on page 106 of the book.
Thank you.
So Whit has this weird imaginary ring that's only visible when his hand is inside the station. So I was like, that makes a whole lot of not any sense whatsoever. Or very little unlikely sense.
That makes a whole lot of no sense.
It seems like Whit was really trying to lead Beth and Patrick and lead the readers onto the idea that they were actually traveling back in time. Yeah, it's
okay,
a little
like
gaudy,
little pearls
isn't it?
on it. It has
Victoria,
like little BBs on
Victoria,
it.
I put the picture up on the screen already.
Yeah, I know. It has like a little 4-leaf clover in the middle.
A 5-leaf,
that looks like something you would get out of a cereal box.
It's not a very good looking ring. If Whit had proposed to Katrina with that, Armitage would not have been impressed.
You mean Eugene?
No, because it's Whit's ring.
I thought you were going to say, like, if that was the ring Jenny got from Whit from that game, no wonder it broke. I bet she's the one that broke it.
I thought you were going to say after she fell off that pile of rocks and he's like, will you marry me in Prequels of Love? But
and she's like, oh, it's hideous. And then she fell backwards.
Yeah, she's recoiled off the rock pile.
She's like, ew, what is that? Don't put it near me. So,
anyways, I'd really been hoping that the kids were going to be more than the most cliche possible trope of the boy who's really reckless and wants adventure and the girl who's smart and
then
collected.
You're like, please let them not be too cliche. And they're like, we'll show you. We'll be even more cliche than you expect.
Yeah. I think it really would have been nice of Whit to explain to the kids they don't have to worry about getting physically back to the place in the adventure where they left the imagination station like it was the TARDIS or something, and that they're always inside the imagination station because they're not actually going back in time.
He's like, no, it'll be more funny this way.
Yeah.
I love watching children squirm.
So the other character that we meet besides Eric and Leif is Eric's wife and Leif's mother, whose name is Theodhild, but they pronounce it as Thjodhild. In the book, they say the J as a hard J instead of a Y sound, and they're Norse, so that really doesn't make sense. I'm not sure if Bob Hoose did that wrong or what, but it shouldn't be Thjodhild. I would think it should be Theodhild. Because they're Norse. It's like fjord, not fjord.
I think my favorite character was Leif. I've always had this respect for Vikings because they are the original trolls. Like, the whole Greenland, Ireland thing
Iceland?
Is my favorite historical
Greenland
stories.
and Iceland?
Yeah, that's what I said. And, like, Greenland being the green one and Iceland being the cold one, and they're like, are you sure that's what it is? And they're like, mm-hmm.
You just said it the wrong way around, but yeah.
Greenland being the green one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's what they said. That's what they told people.
Okay, yeah.
And then they're like, are you sure? And then they're like, uh-huh. And they're like, okay, we'll take Greenland. And they're like, sweet, we'll take Iceland. No take backs. And then they run off.
So, like we said, the kids are trying to find this Viking sunstone, and they have no idea what a sunstone is. So instead of asking Leif or Theodhild, who they just call Hilda for short, instead of asking either of them, hey, what's a sunstone, perhaps? I mean, it's obvious that it was, or at least I thought at that point, I was like, it's obviously the stone on the hilt of the sword, because they keep on, like, pointing it out specifically. Also, every chapter in the book, it says, like, chapter whatever, and then it's underlined by a picture of the sword with the stone in the hilt.
And you're like, oh, gee, I wonder what it is.
So, I figure it's pretty obviously probably that. But the kids don't even ask what it was. Like, don't you think it would be easier to ask someone that you could trust? It would make it a lot easier to search and be like, let's just look. I'm sure we'll know when we see it. We'll just keep on looking.
You would think.
So,
but that would make the story shorter.
So the problem here is that Eric the Red is very angry that his son and wife have become Christians. They got their Christianity from Norway, and he wants them to keep on following the Norse religions, and he's not a fan of Beth and Patrick, who are also Christians. He wants to sell them as slaves, so the kids have to stay out of Eric the Red's way. So Leif is like, you guys hide in the church, he won't look for you there. But Patrick's like, we need to find the Sunstone, so he goes out to find Leif, and Leif's like, we're about to have this big pagan Norse celebration, and there's going to be sacrifices and stuff. We need to make sure Beth is safe. So they run off. They don't even check the church first for Beth, which is where she said that she would be. It's where she's supposed to be, but they just go right to the celebration to look for her there. Turns out she's there anyways, but it was just kind of odd. So it turns out Eric the Red is really proud of his chess skills, and so they're like, hey, I bet that that stone on the sword is the Sunstone. So this family heirloom that belongs to the King of Greenland, we should probably take it without finding out whether or not this is actually the Sunstone at all. And
so
because
stupid.
We could assume this must be the Sunstone. It's not like that could be a name that the Vikings used for, say, I don't know, a piece of bread or literally anything. But Eric's like,
oh yeah, that's just what we call normal rocks. You could have just taken one and left.
Exactly. I was like, it could have been it could have been some weird thing for anything. They're just assuming it's that.
I assumed the Sunstone would be a rock on like the beach or something like that.
So,
I didn't think it would be an emerald.
You mean sapphire? Emeralds are green?
Whatever it is.
So Eric the Red asks Beth if she plays chess, which I was really surprised that he would even ask her. I figured he would just assume that she didn't, because he's well like, you're going to be a house servant, and that's all you're good for. So she plays chess. She beats him. They had this nice little metaphor about how he had her in check with the queen, but then she like moved her pawn one space and put him in checkmate, and it was like this whole metaphor about like the littlest thing can overcome the most powerful player with a little move if you use your head. So, but yeah. So they take the sword. There's this family heirloom, and he's all rage quitting the game and stuff, but she gets it. And they're like, yeah, we got the Sunstone. And then Leif is like, that's not a Sunstone. And I was like, oh, you know, if only you'd asked someone what it was before you stole the sword. So they find out that the Sunstone is this huge, complicated sundial monolith thing they have with all sorts of holes and carvings and notches. And there's a picture of it in the book, and I'll put it up right here. For you, Victoria, the picture of it is on page, here it is, page 77.
I really do like the illustrations, though. They look very Disney-esque.
Very nice art style. The illustrations are drawn by, what's his name? David Hahn. Hahn spelled H-O-H-N.
Don't they look really Disney-y in a good way?
Yeah, it's a really nice style. I really like it.
What page was that?
77.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's the picture for everyone.
Oh, I thought you were getting me to read a certain part. I was like, no, there's a picture on this page.
Yeah, so that is what the Sunstone looks like. And they're like, well, crap, we can't bring that back to the Imagination Station. Also, it's obviously predicated on exactly where in the world it's located, so it wouldn't be any good to anyone else, but, you know, whatever.
Plus, they didn't realize they weren't talking about that rock. They're talking about the guy behind the rock. He's the Sunstone.
Yeah.
Kidnapping.
Do not look behind the Sunstone.
Can you imagine how different Isaac the Chivalrous would be if the knight couldn't come out of the imagination station. He could only sit
disappeared.
inside of it. And he's just like, there's a window now in there because anything's canon, apparently. And he sees, like, Rodney outside harassing people. He's like, he has his face smushed up against it. He's like, hey, you kid, stop doing that. And he's, like, hitting it. He's like, stop.
Yeah. So the kids get locked in a shed, or in the church, I guess it was. They get locked in there, but then they get mysteriously set free by a knight in, like, medieval armor, which is presumably, like, part of the overlying plot thing, especially since the fourth book is called, like, Dawn of the Red Knight, or something like that.
That doesn't mean anything. That's just a coincidence.
Yeah, it's not like Lord Darkthorn or anything. The knight stuff has to do with the fact that there was a character in knight's armor who helped them, and then it's not mentioned at all for the rest of the book.
Do you think that was Albert?
Probably. Oh,
do you think the notes are from Lucy and they're about her cousin Albert? That's what I want to think.
I should also point out that with the Magic Treehouse books, the titles, lots of them involve alliteration, but every title, at least for the main series, I'm not sure about the Merlin Mysteries, every single title involves some, like, time of the day in the titles. So we have, like, to read a couple of them from the beginning.
Morning of something. Dawn of the Nights. Night of the Knights. I remember the second one was about knights. Yeah. The first one was about dinosaurs.
Yes. Victoria, can I talk, please?
I can't remember what the other ones were about.
To name a few, because they always incorporated a time of day. So we had Dinosaurs Before Dark, The Night at Dawn, Mummies in the Morning, Pirates Past Noon, Night of the Ninjas, Afternoon on the Amazon, Sunset of the Sabertooth, Midnight on the Moon, Dolphins at Daybreak, Ghost Town at Sundown. So lots of alliteration, and everyone involves some time of day.
And they had to end at 28 because they couldn't come up with any more words. So then they're like, can we just name these the Merlin Mysteries and just do something else?
Lions at Lunchtime, Polar Bears Past Bedtime.
That's way more than I could come up with, honestly.
Most of the Merlin Mysteries still had things as well. There's Christmas in Camelot, Haunted Castle on Hallows Eve, Summer of the Sea Serpent, Winter of the Ice Wizard, Carnival and Candlelight, Season of the Sandstorms.
I told you to stop doing specific things. Now we're stuck again.
Dragon of the Red Dawn. Yeah. Eve of the Emperor Penguin.
I think, like, in one that came out a couple years ago, they actually met an author or something like that.
And then the books, to read the titles of the books, at least the ones that had come out by the time the official guide came out, we had Voyage with the Vikings, Attack at the Arena, Peril in the Palace, Revenge of the Red Knight, Showdown with the Shepherd. So, no times of day, but still very heavy alliteration basing for these ones.
There's no similarities between the titles whatsoever, just like there's no similarities between the plot.
Exactly. So, finally, they get on a boat with Leif Erikson, they're sailing away, and it's the boat where the Imagination Station is located. And basically, what happens is Beth is like, oh yeah, we're from North America, and the Grizzly Bear Cape, yeah, they're from Canada and stuff. He's like, I haven't heard of these places. And she's like, here, I'll draw you a map. And she starts carving it into a barrel. And she's like, see, this is here. This is North America. This is where Newfoundland is. And she gestures to the middle of the continent, like the middle of the U.S., and she's like, and this is where we are from. So even though the story's obviously not canon, Beth's indication vaguely shows Odyssey being roughly located in the center of the continent, as we know, because it's in Ohio. And then they find out that there's another thing called a sunstone, which is like a thinly cut sapphire that you hold up to your eye so that on a cloudy day it helps filter out like the color of the sky in the clouds so that you can see the sun clear when you're sailing. And they're like, hey, want to trade that sapphire for this wooden chess set? And he's like, lol, sure, why not? So
he's like, well, it's only a sapphire, so sure.
Yeah, so they do that, and as soon as they touch it, then on top of the barrel, the red button just, like, appears floating, and they're like, sweet, hit the button.
Imagine if they didn't notice it, and they ran all the way back.
And so they come back, they bring the stone with them somehow. I'm like, it's like we're all stuck in Isaac the Chivalrous. I have no idea what's going on. And then a new note just materialized out of thin air on the dashboard. I have no idea.
Do you think this is all one giant adventure, Devin?
Yeah, I really hope this is just Mabel trolling everyone really hard by making... I think, because think about it, how the Imagination Station works by, like, you know, it's like hallucinations in a dream state sort of thing. What if she's become so powerful now that while you're
turned into Hal,
while you're awake and while the door is open, she can make people in and near the station think that they're seeing things while they're conscious. So she's like, sure, you're holding a stone in your hand. There's a note on the dash. Whit has a ring on his finger. She's growing more powerful. I think we should start calling her GLaDOS instead.
I think this would make the series so much more interesting. Or if it's like a nightmare Whit has, and he wakes up at the end, he's like, ugh, that was awful. I never want to go through that again.
It's basically like I slap floor when he's like, I'm gonna make a Stratflyer.
And me having a dog and stuff. It sucked, and then he falls asleep.
And then they get the new note, and it's like more mysteriousness, and it's like Monk's red cup from Rome, and Whit's like, I guess I'm sending you guys to Rome tomorrow.
Better not ruin Telemachus for me, although I don't think it could because it's such a good episode.
Oh yeah, Telemachus, the monk's cup, of course. It's the chalice that belonged to Elric. Elric's chalice.
Yeah.
Didn't think of that.
I thought of it when I read the note at the end. So I love the reaction on page 14 and 15 to the first note. So they read it,
wait.
Beth's like...
14 and 15,
14 and 15, at the end of 14. Beth's like, who's Albert? And what is Lord Darkthorn's tower? She somehow says with a straight face. And Whit's like, I'll explain all that later. It's like, please, Whit. Like, you have any idea what the heck is going on?
Yeah, she's like, what if we don't find the Sunstone, Beth asked. Then I'll figure out a new plan, Mr. Whittaker said. Don't worry about it. Just have a good time while you're looking.
And it's like, hopefully the Vikings don't murder you. Bye, kids. Because apparently, if this actually is like real time travel,
then you die.
It's not a controlled environment anymore. Anything can happen. They can very easily die.
Yeah, die in the imagination station. You die in real life.
Yeah.
Unless the boat made all the way to Canada, of course, because as we all know, if you die in Canada, you don't die in real life. But
yeah, if you die in Canada, you just get sent to like a different realm.
Your respawn point, yeah.
Yeah.
So
we're immortal.
Yeah. Even though there's no audiobooks for the other ones, I don't know if there's planned to be. The first 4 books have all been released as PDFs to download in various newsletters at different points for people in the OAC, which means that we can at least do the first 4 books so far.
Yeah, I'm going to start reading these as a horror story because I think it's going to be the only way that I can read them and actually get through them if I think it's just Mabel trying to murder everyone.
So at some point, we'll get to that. It was an hour and 8 minutes for the audiobook, and it's 128 pages, the PDF of the thing. Yes.
Do you think that this was drier than A Space Odyssey?
No. Oh, Space Odyssey is much worse. This wasn't that boring. There wasn't a whole lot that happened.
Devin and I watched A Space Odyssey together last year, I think.
Yeah, a year and a bit ago.
Yeah, it was... No.
Anyways.
We didn't like it.
What are your thoughts on this book, Victoria? And predictions for the next book? Who do you think about, like, Albert and Lord Darkthorn?
Do you think anyone's gonna die?
What do you think's going on, Victoria? Do you have predictions? What about the mysterious knight?
I gave up when I heard the words Lord Darkthorn. Actually, I gave up when I heard the words, hey, Victoria, we're gonna read the Imagination Station books. Like a couple months ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was 6 years ago when the first book came out, and I saw like a 3-sentence description of it, and it's like the kids bring artifacts outside of the Imagination Station. I'm like, well, don't need to worry about reading those for canon. But yeah, final thoughts and rating, Victoria.
I have to give at least a 1 out of 5 minimum, just because of the artwork, because the artwork is really, really nice, in my opinion. I really like it. Mm-hmm. I had to give it pity/irony points for how entertaining the Lord Darkthorn DeviantArt OC thing is, because that's incredible. So, 2 out of 5. I feel like I'm being quite generous. Actually, 1.5 out of 5, because it's ripping off Magic Treehouse with every single thing, and it's so completely
really
unoriginal.
Hard. Like, the idea of taking, like, that you need to find an artifact and that you bring... Because that's really the only reason that they would change canon and be like, oh, sure, you can bring things outside of the Imagination Station now is to emulate the Magic Treehouse.
1 out of 5 for the artwork only, and I'm being very generous. I like Leif Erikson. I've always liked him, though.
I love Leif Erikson. I've always loved Leif Erikson. It was my favorite moment in Jupiter Ascending.
I bet it was. My favorite moment was every moment with Marius. Bless him.
Okay, so what was your numerical rating?
1 out of 5. How is this review so long for this stupid book?
Because I spent like half of it just describing what happened with Max.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was an adventure. I learned so many things. I feel like we need to redo our How Does the Imagination Station Work video now in light of this book series.
And also I feel like the animated series would have a couple colorful things to say about how the Imagination Station works.
I feel like they get it pretty canon compared to this.
Yeah, they are way more canon from what I've seen. But to be fair, I think I've only seen like 2 different things from the series with the Imagination Station. One was the one where Eugene dies, and then the other one was the one where the guy gets sent back to slave trading days, early America, and then he goes in the church also that was Wit's End.
Night Travelers. That was about the Imagination Station.
That doesn't count.
Remember, Whit was like, I'm going to kill him.
That doesn't
and then,
count
like,
where they all tackled
opened.
each other. They're completely on the other side of the room from the Imagination Station. And then they all appear in it. And then at the end, they all fall out of it.
Been there, done that, Victoria. This book, I'm going to give a 2 out of 5, I guess.
Wow. That's nice.
Yeah, it's...
You think I'm generous.
It's extremely non-canon. They made a lot of regular, well-established concepts in Odyssey extremely confusing and bended the truth of the way that things happen in the show in order to fit a very different storytelling model. And all of it was in service, intentionally or not, to make the story a whole lot closer to another well-established book series, to the point where it's almost plagiarism, it feels like, that it's so similar to it.
No, tell us how you really think, Devin.
The historical stuff in it was nice, at least, and I'm glad that they tried to, teach some history and be accurate about it. And Bob Hoose did a well enough job, with the audiobook stuff. You could hear the little bit at the beginning. At some points, you could hear the little bit of Old Man Jenkins, of Mr. Jenkins in his voice.
I just don't like audiobooks.
No, yeah, I also don't like audiobooks.
And if I have to listen to an audiobook, I don't know if this is going to come off as sexist. If it does, I don't mean for it to be. But I prefer listening to women read audiobooks than men. Because women impersonating, trying to imitate men's voices sounds a lot less awkward to me than men trying to make their voices really high and do, squeaky female voices.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion, personally. What do you think?
I agree. About halfway through it, I started reading along with the PDF while I was listening to it, because it just helped me to focus on what was actually happening better and not drift off, because it was an audiobook.
The music, but it was all Odyssey music.
Well, yeah, it's still Odyssey, it's still John Campbell.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was about how it went, and we'll see, chances are, before we do the second book of this, we'd probably end up doing a book review for a different series, But we'll see what happens. We'll see where we end up.
So, Devin, did you like this more than Katie and Will's book, or less?
It's pretty tough, but I think I'm going to have to prefer Adventures in Oddity. Go buy it.
Same. Go buy it.
I'll put a link down in the description again.
Go buy it instead of this book. I'm trying not to be mean. It's hard, though.
So, yeah, now that we've spent that long talking about it, this will be much shorter. We're going to do our predictions for the OAC 2016 season. It's a little awkward because we don't know, for some bizarre reason, we only know 7 out of the 12 titles for this season, despite the fact that, this episode should have been recorded before we would have even known that many. Right now, we are halfway through February, and we still only know 7 out of the 12 for this current year that we're in. It's very bizarre. Normally, we know all of the months and the titles well before the year starts, well in time to do a predictions episode, but...
Do we have a description, or no?
I guess there is, but we'll turn you over to that, and we'll talk about our predictions for that season right now. And we're back now to talk about our predictions for Season 3 of the Odyssey Adventure Club, the OAC 2016 season. So, unfortunately, for some bizarre reason, we haven't been told all of the titles. We've barely been told half of the titles for these episodes, even though, at the time of this recording, we're already a month and a half into the year that it's airing.
It just leaves more surprise.
So we only know 7 of the episode titles, and we only know when 2 of those are, and those are the 2 that have come out already. We don't even know what the episode for next month is.
Ambiguity!
Yeah, okay, so for our prediction, so with the numbering system, the new weird numbering system, these episodes for January through December of 2016 are going to be numbered from 789 to 800. So as far as we are aware right now, the December episode for this year should be episode 800 of the Odyssey Adventure.
Do these take place after album 60?
Yes.
Okay. Can I just go right off the bat and say only 3 of these titles aren't awful in my opinion?
You can say that. So let's go through the 2 that we know so far. So first we know for January, episode 789, The Journal of John Avery Whittaker, possibly the most exciting episode title I've ever seen before.
I am so excited. 790, Walk This Way.
For February. And then the ones that we don't know when they are, we have The Boat People, parts 1 and 2.
Such a dumb title. The Good Soil.
Things Not Seen.
Untech the Halls. So it's going to be like the 19th tech episode we've gotten relating to Christmas. It's so not tiring. Just like Eugene Adventures with the Bank and Robbery and stuff aren't tiring.
So Untech the Halls will probably be the Christmas episode, which means it will probably be episode 800. Glad we're
we don't know that.
I said probably.
It could be the November one.
It could be. Because after all, the Operation Christmas Child episode back in 2014 was the October episode, not the December episode. For good reason, because you need to fill out your Christmas Child boxes before December. So, yeah.
And no better way to ring out the old year than with dead crickets.
The episodes have like 1-sentence descriptions on AIOO Wiki. I've tried my best not to look at them. I'll disclose the spoilers I do know, I guess, because they're not really much.
Don't tell me.
I wouldn't call them spoilers. I mean, but so the Journal of John Avery Whittaker.
No, can I take these out? I don't want to know.
I won't say them then. I'll just say the Boat People probably isn't as dumb as you think it is.
The title's dumb, at least.
Yeah, I know, but
I mean, like, couldn't they have come up with a? I mean, the title, in my opinion, is laughably awful. But
okay, let's start from the beginning. Journal of John Avery Whittaker, Victoria.
We've seen the artwork for it, and it has Whit, who I think it's Whit, standing on a roof. We can see McGruff the dog, and we can also see, hopefully, who I think is Fiona, his stepmother. And I am really, really excited. Do you think they got the same voice actress for her?
I doubt it, but it would be nice. It would be really nice. So yeah, hopefully we'll get to see Fiona Donroll, or even more could also be Whit's biological mother.
How old was Whit when when his mom passed away?
I can't remember. He was like 8 or 6 or something like that when his father remarried. So it's probably too young for it to be his real mother.
I don't know. It would be cool if we got his real mom, but I'm hoping for at least Fiona, because I love Fiona.
I really want to hear Fiona Donroll.
Do you think it'll be Fiona post-blind or pre-blind? Because I hadn't thought of that until now.
Pre-blind. Based on the picture, I'm assuming that she's not going like Whit and reaching out for him if she can't see what he's doing.
I'm just hoping for like little troublemaker Whit, and Fiona's just like, I'm so done with this. One day you're gonna listen to me, but at what cost?
So I'm assuming I'm assuming this is when Whit like starts his journals for the first time when he's young, and so this will probably be the youngest Whit that we've ever seen before. So that's cool.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, we're getting more backstory. This is something, even though the episode's coming out, I'll say this about the episode because this is something we knew basically like almost a year in advance from the recording sessions, that we will get to hear from Whit's grandfather in this episode. We'll get to learn the name of and hear Whit's grandfather as a character, which is really exciting to me.
Bet it's Hiram Meltzner.
We get to add to the Whittaker family tree, so that's really cool. Walk This Way. What do you think, Victoria?
I think this one is an adaptation of a Christmas favorite. whatever it was called with Santa Claus. I think it was Santa Claus is Coming to Town. So it's an adaptation of the classic song One Foot in Front of the Other.
Oh, I was like, where are you going with this?
And soon you'll be walking out the door. Just put one foot in front of the other.
I like that song. Yeah, you're going to get us taken off YouTube.
What?
You're going to get us taken off YouTube. They're going to content ID you.
Darn it. I'm sorry.
So...
there goes the 40 minutes of talking about Lord Darkthorn, or whatever his name was.
Walk This Way, I would guess, has to do with, like, following after Jesus, like being imitators of Christ.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm thinking it's going to be a lot like something we would find in the Truth Chronicles.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, follow after me, be imitators of me as I'm imitators of Christ in 1 Corinthians 6. Fish. Yeah.
No J pun episodes that we've
Not
noticed,
yet.
which is kind of worrying.
So, yeah. I mean, I kind of know somewhat of something about what Walk This Way is about, but I won't talk about that.
I thought you were going to say something about Jay. Do you know anything about Jay?
I don't. I wish I did.
Darn it.
I really do not know any spoilers about Jay, whether or not he appears ever again.
Oh.
The Boat People, parts 1 and 2. What do you think that's about, Victoria?
I think it's about... isn't it obvious? I think it's about Lord Darkthorn, who has flooded the earth, and he's taking Albert hostage on his Mediterranean ship, and he's holding him hostage for King Arthur's sword Excalibur.
This is going to take you a long time to let go of this, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Such a ridiculous name. I think it's about Noah's Ark.
Noah's Ark seems the most logical. We've never had, like, a non-really comedied up episode about Noah's Ark that I can think of, or is, like, a really, like, kind of in story
we've
kind of
had
retelling.
Bethany's Flood, and we've had the one with...
By Faith Noah, and we had...
yeah, that's what it's called.
And we had Silver Lining, or not Silver Lining, Dark Clouds, Black Clouds. Yeah, from the Joanne and Connie's road trip.
I'd say Black Lining was...
Silver
it was
Lining?
the closest we've had to being serious.
You mean Black Clouds?
But it still had that waitress lady inserting all those jokes.
All the presidents' names? Well, I mean... It was still just kind of being narrated. It was only a tiny portion of the episode. We've never had a whole episode where there was like a serious telling of Noah's Ark where it wasn't like just a whole bunch of slapstick comedy.
Do you think it's going to be kids radio, or do you think it's going to be Imagination Station?
Probably kids radio.
Been getting a lot of kids radio two-parters lately.
Yeah, that would be my
guess. By
a
lot, I mean Pinocchio,
if that's
and I can't.
What the episode was about, which it isn't,
others.
But it's a good guess. Noah's Ark.
Is it about Noah's Ark?
No.
Huh.
But if I didn't know, then that would be my guess. I hate having to be like tongue in cheek about like, let's do our predictions. This is what I think, even though I actually don't.
I don't know anything, so mine are genuine.
I don't really remember
your phoned in reactions.
I don't remember.
I haven't even seen the titles that I can. I mean, I think I've seen them, but I can't remember what they are. So
I don't remember what the other ones were about. So the Good Soils probably has to do with like the parable of the seeds and the farmer.
So do you think I'm noticing a theme with this season already? What do you think?
What's the theme?
Well, if the Journal of John Avery Whittaker is going to be anything like Thank You God, then it's probably going to be about like what kind of being introduced and slowly like pushed towards Christianity. Walk This Way is about like acting how how Jesus wants you to be and like following him. Good Soil sounds like it's about the same thing. Boat People is about like the same thing. Things Not Seen, it's probably about like faith. Believing in Jesus and having faith even though you can't see him. So it seems like there's a common theme. What do you think?
I don't know. I feel like that's just as much commonality basically as the
last album of the OAC.
As the other OAC ones. Yeah. Except a little less.
I mean, I'm saying that's probably what they're going to say the theme is.
A little less missional stuff in this one that we can see so far, but who knows? Maybe some of these are missionary episodes. I'm pretty sure.
Walk This Way sounds like it could be The missionary one?
I mean, like, I wouldn't have guessed that to the ends of the earth, although in retrospect, to the ends of the earth, traveling around the world obviously should have been one. But, I mean, there are ones in here. I'm pretty sure the boat people is a missionary one, but I could be wrong about that.
Which one?
The boat people.
I don't know. Maybe it's about the Titanic.
Maybe. We've never had a Titanic episode.
Do you think someone's going to go back and they're going to be on the Titanic in an imagination station adventure?
Eugene did mention it in Back to Abnormal, right? About making an imagination station adventure about the Titanic.
I want to see Buck in an imagination station adventure. I think that would be interesting.
So,
do you think he's ever gone in it before?
Not that we know of, so probably
I want to see
not.
Buck in the Room of Consequence. I want another Room of Consequence episode. They're always so good, from my experience.
Untech the Halls is probably another, like, blah, technology's evil, and Thomas Edison was a witch.
See, I told you, there were like a million tech Christmas episodes, and last time you were like, no, there isn't, and then we get this one.
Well, what are the other Christmas... I mean, we've had lots of episodes talking about tech. I mean, they even tried to ham-fist that into The Cure. They're like... Whoa, look at Wooten ignore it. He's not looking out at the snow for 8 hours. He's ignoring, like, looking out the window where everything's straight white so he can text his fiance. What's with that technology?
They weren't engaged at that point, though.
No, but he proposed at that point. Theoretically, maybe, sort of. Either way, he's like, I'm texting Penny, who I'm maybe engaged to, maybe proposed to, maybe not.
Can you imagine how funny it was if he actually had proposed and they just, like, didn't tell anyone and they just pretended it didn't happen for an entire album?
That's my guess, honestly.
One day Penny was just like, oh, yeah, Connie, I knew this string was on my finger for some reason. I forgot to tell you something.
Honestly, I think that's what it was, where, like, Wooten proposed and then he went on this trip to Alaska and stuff so they could both kind of, like, think about things before they came back and
then Wooten almost died and she's just like, I've been a fool. I'll think about it.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't say yes. She's like, maybe.
Yeah. So, Untech the Halls probably has to do with the Parkers. I'm going to lay odds. Because it has to do with technology and probably about
had a kind of
families communicating.
Christmas episode with the Parkers, though.
Yeah,
but... Abuelita's Christmas.
And I bet Lucia's going to be in it, I'm sure.
We haven't seen her in a long time.
It's been a while.
Was the last one with her, like, the one with David and, like, the beauty salon and stuff? I think. It
was the one with Olivia. No, it was... Camilla. It was the beginning of album 57, the 57 premiere, Servants Listening. Where they went back and they saw Samuel.
Yeah. And then she went in the imagination station. She had, like, candy in her purse. And I'm like, these kids could be allergic to your sweets. You could be murdering them. Even though they're only only zeros and ones.
Yeah. So... Yeah, Things Not Seen is probably about faith somehow. Good Soil probably has to do with the parable of the, it's going to be scattered seeds. Untech the Halls has to do about how technology is all evil, and it's not like people have reacted the same way to different types of technology, and it's only become different excuses throughout history for the way that we perform the same social interactions, and it doesn't actually have anything to do.
That's why I think these are very good titles. They sound too predictable. Although, apparently, Boat People is not very predictable. So.
Maybe. I guess they're just
throwing
playing
me for a
us.
Loop, apparently.
They're just playing upon the predictability, one could say.
I feel like Drake the Cosmic Copper is the one that's like messed the most with me title-wise. Where it's just like, this is going to be a dumb episode, and you listen to it and you're like, that was actually an outstanding episode.
Maybe Wit's not even in the Journal of John Avery Whittaker. Who knows?
No, if it was just... I was doing so well that I remembered her name. If it was just Fiona... and just Fiona for 20 minutes, I would be so fine with that.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, and then at the end, you just hear, like, things breaking, and she's just like, oh, that must be my, like, crazy stepson. And she's just like, and she runs out, she's like, what? And then that's, like, the episode.
Yeah.
Like, I would listen to Fiona's grocery list, and I would be okay with that. I want more Fiona.
So I guess that's all of our predictions, then, because there's not many...
Hey guys, just a little addendum here onto the video. Because of the unusual circumstances regarding the OAC this year, as we were just talking about, when 2016 started, we didn't know all of the episode titles and when they were going to come out, which was already in and of itself unusual. Because there was such a long time gap between when we first recorded the segment you just watched and right now, which is the day or the day before that this episode is being posted, we now know 2 more titles, and so we want to talk about them. And those are the episodes for March and April, episodes 791 and 792, When One Door Closes, parts 1 and 2. So these are new titles that we know about now that we didn't when we initially recorded this, so we figured we should squeeze this in before the episode goes out. So, When One Door Closes, Victoria. I know about this episode that it is an away episode with Whit and at least someone else.
Don't tell me.
Well, I feel like at least the basic... I don't even know the premise of the episode, but I feel like in our predictions, I know it has something to do with like being in a Muslim country.
Don't tell me, Devin.
Well, it's too late now. It's part of predictions. We work on what we know, and that was what I was unable to avoid. Because I do want to talk about that in terms of predictions, not just make a vague guess based off the name, but in terms of doing an episode in a predominantly Muslim Middle East country, because obviously that's something we haven't done before. The only place in the Middle East we've been to before is Israel. And, I mean, I have no idea how this is going to turn out. Honestly, it makes me rather nervous, because it could go a lot of different ways. While I openly acknowledge that I believe that, you know, Christianity, that Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life, that he is the one true way to heaven, I do not believe in the religion of Islam, yet I do know that in America, that conservative Christianity is very nasty towards Islam and people of the Muslim faith, especially those living in America. There is incredible amounts of rampant Islamophobia. See Donald Trump.
But not everyone.
And most of the Republican Party.
But not everyone's like that.
Politically speaking. No, not everyone, but a very large amount of people.
Well, I don't think Focus is going to go bashing on people.
Well, no. I don't think it's... I'm not saying that this episode is going to be, like, violently hateful towards Muslims. I do not think that. However, it still does make me nervous about how it will be handled. I just want to make sure that while we're not saying, oh yes, all religions are right and all things are good and true, you can go to heaven by many routes. That is not what I want. However, I do want these people at least to be properly respected, which I think should happen, and yet there's the possibility that it couldn't. And so I do feel a little bit nervous about it. But, you know, I'm keeping optimistic that it will pull something wonderful out of it.
I see what you mean. I agree.
Any thoughts about it? Now that you know this about it?
I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a lot like Ties That Bind, probably.
Yes. Well, that's rather what worries me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ties That Bind wasn't as bad as we thought it would be, like, a couple years before when we were guessing about it.
It was different than we thought it would be, I guess. The problems that I had with it weren't the problems I thought that I would have with it.
My biggest problem, probably, is that Miss Adelaide hasn't shown up since that album.
It is kind of odd, but we're not here to talk about the Ties That Bind. Any thoughts on the title of the episode? I would assume it has to do something with opportunity, like God opening opportunities for us to do things.
But I think it is the Middle East is like, Wit's had it pretty good over at Wit's End for a little while. Let's take him back. And
yeah, we're taking Andre Stoica out to pasture.
Yep.
You know what it means when Wit heads off to the Middle East. We're getting
Sorry, Andre.
Jack's
you had a
coming
good
back.
one on the show, though. Plus, he is sick. Remember that. He is sick. So, like, in canon...
Wit, you mean? I thought you meant Andre. That's true. Wit is sick.
In canon, Wit's gonna die.
Yeah. We're putting him out to pasture. Jack's going to come back.
Since Andre's not going to die, we just have to kill the character.
Jack's going to come back, and he and Jason are going to take over Wit's End again. We're just going to bring back the same kids' characters from 24 years ago or whatever.
I want Alan Young to come back. That's like when Jared was around. I want that to happen.
No, that was before Jared.
Shh. I know it was, Devin. Let me have this.
No.
It was close to when Jared was around.
So I'm assuming that it has to do then, because of the title, with the opportunities, the doors that God opens to us, and following after those and not letting them close. If God has opened something for us, and then we are to follow after the doors that he has opened for us. And I mean, the full expression, when one door opens, another one closes, could have to do with, like, we have these plans that we think we're going to set down, and then these doors close, and then we're confused about what God is doing, but then he has other plans in mind that we weren't expecting, like a best laid plans of mice and men kind of thing, which is another phrase of the same meaning, which was also truncated to make an episode title in Album 35. Wonderful episode.
Is this a 2-part episode?
Yes.
Okay. So, like, the first half's called Best Laid Plans, and then...
No, they're both, it's when one door opens, parts 1 and 2.
Oh, that's not...
It is odd, yeah, you're right.
I don't like that.
You'd think it would be when one door open and then another one closes or something. Or, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't... Why didn't they do that? That feels like something they would have done.
Maybe it's something they didn't realize until after the fact, kind of like how they wanted, who I think Paul after the
Fifth
fact.
house on the left,
and
6 on the Richter scale.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, like, we have, like, here today... Wait, no, that's not it at all. I'm thinking of gone but not forgotten. That's what I said in my head, but out loud, those were not the words I spoke.
And no way in, no way out. Started with a rabbit's foot, ended with a handshake. Those are all two-parters.
Began with a rabbit's foot.
Sorry?
Began with a rabbit's foot.
Yeah.
You said it started with a rabbit's foot.
Oh. Those are all two-parters that have titles that aren't labeled part 1 and 2, but they have 2 titles that pair together. So, and
I really love it when Odyssey does that with its titles, though. It was one of the best things about Novacom.
Well, they didn't do that on Novacom, but I know what you mean.
There were some in Novacom that were kind of linked. A little bit. Well, Plan B had multiple names.
Plan B did have the same beginning name, though, and it also had part numbers on it. Plan B was the real weird one in terms of the history of naming conventions on Odyssey. Plan B is probably the weirdest.
Plan B was a weird episode in general, and it made everyone cry, and it murdered everyone.
Anyways, that's our really long predictions. Excuse me. For episodes 791 and 792, the March and April episodes. So part 2 will have come out today or yesterday, depending on when this episode goes up, and probably farther back than that, depending on when you watch it. Today or yesterday means nothing
to them.
Sorry?
Today or yesterday means nothing to them.
Yeah, I said or even further back, depending on when you watched it. It means something to them because they can scroll down and they can see when this video was uploaded. Anyways, back to the video so that we can close it out now. So I'll just spare. Okay. And back to that.
So I guess that's all of our predictions then, because there's not many episodes and there's not a lot we can say about them. We have no album description.
Well, there aren't many episodes in Odyssey albums nowadays.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we don't even have descriptions that we can go off of. And there's usually not any main plot stuff happening in the OAC like there is in the regular album, so we can't extrapolate plot stuff from that either. So, you know, there's not a lot we can say about this. So,
I'll say it here and I'll say it again. I hope characters get married in the OAC and they never talk about it in Odyssey, and you're just supposed to know.
The OAC is basically just like the mobile Kingdom Hearts games, where it seems like it's random and everyone thinks that you don't need to include it. And then we're going to get to a point where people are going to be like, wait, who are these people? What's going on? All this stuff. And they're like, actually,
everyone's going to die, and Hell's End. Hell is going to end. See, it's already become Wit's End.
Happening.
It's merged.
They're merging.
They're merging. I don't even know which one's the original one anymore. Which one's the Discovery Emporium, Devin? I don't know.
They're both the Discovery Emporium. That's the point.
I thought one just sold food. Doesn't Hal's Diner just sell food?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
So, I guess that's all for this time, then. That's all we have to say. We probably could have done it in a shorter, less roundabout way, but there you go. This is episode 81. You know what you were in store for. You can't complain by this point.
This is our show and we do what we want.
Yeah, thanks.
Haven't you learned that by now?
Thanks for watching. We love you. Next time...
Thank you for watching.
Next time, we are going to be reviewing The Journal of John Avery Whittaker, and Blackbeard's Treasure, because
I'm really excited.
we thought since we were doing one episode about Young Wit that we should do another episode also about Young Wit, so we chose Blackbeard's Treasure because we have already done Thank You God way back at the beginning of this podcast.
Such a good episode.
It's nice that it's like, wow, we're at the point where we've reviewed enough episodes of this show that it's like, oh, that one's perfect topical. Oh, we've already done that one. I don't know exactly how many it is by this point, but we've done almost or just over 100 episode reviews by this point, which is
Wow.
like, wow. Yeah. And you think
Well, I guess that kind of makes sense considering how many episodes we've done of the Oddcast and how we do like 2 reviews
for every second
episode, roughly.
Yeah. And we've done, our reviews happen more than every second episode because they happen every episode when an album is coming out. We've also done reviews sometimes that aren't the regular reviews, like we've done like the Versus episodes and stuff like that. So basically it's a lot. By the end of this year, the show will have hit 800 episodes, and so we've almost done like 12.5% of the show, basically. Or more than it.
That's pretty impressive.
At this point, probably more than 12.5% of the episodes on this show.
And we've done at least 2% of the animated one.
Yeah. So, next time, Journal of John Avery Whittaker, Blackbeard's Treasure. Until then, thank you for joining us on our side of the YouTube. I've been Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner.
And I've been the skipper of this crazy ship.
And you've been watching The Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast.